Good evening and welcome to the 43rd episode of LMR Live from the University of Mississippi. We bring together education and entertainment and do our signature thing. Who knows what it is? Who knows what it is? Edutainment! Why am I alone? Say it with me. Edutainment! We have 2 more episodes left in season 10. Tonight we are with Kaleidoscopia String Trio, so exciting. They're here for a residency, giving 2 master classes. One was this afternoon, another one will be on Wednesday afternoon. They're doing this show, LMR Live, and if you happen to be in the area, they will be giving a recital Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. in that auditorium, free and open to the public. So join us. They're fabulous. One more episode after this one in season 10. So mark your calendars. On April 19th, 6 p.m. Central Time, we will be doing an LMR Live with alumnus Glenn Ballard. I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show. So season 10, it's sort of crazy to think that LMR Live started 10 years ago on March 25th, 2014. And at that time, we had a set. At this point, not much is left from that original set. Does anyone recollect anything that is from the initial season? Anything? Anything? Yes? The lamp! The signature lamp still remains! Yes, clap for the lamp, clap for the lamp. We also have our flowers, which the entire team likes to harass me about. The reason I bring this up, we will be revealing a revamped new set on April 19th for that episode of LMR Live, so brace yourselves, you're going to be blown away. All right, so tonight, Kaleidoscopia. Who is in Kaleidoscopia? Andrea Dawson, violin, and Balija, viola, and Christine Kralik, cello. You know, being in the SEC, we are known as being band schools, but it is very important that we point out we have epically strong string programs too. That was embodied today with our students that performed in the master class. Whoop, whoop. And it is possible to have a strong and growing string program because of our faculty. And tonight, what's really special about showcasing this group is one of the members is part of our faculty, Dr. Christine Kralik. So let me tell you a little about our very own Dr. Christine Kralik. Cello professor here at the University of Mississippi. She teaches applied cello and bass lessons. She leads our music appreciation courses. She received her doctorate of musical arts with an emphasis in cello performance from Texas Tech University, her master's from the Cleveland Institute of Music, and a Bachelor of Music from the University of Utah. Dr. Kralik is principal cellist with the North Mississippi Symphony and the Lubbock Chamber Orchestra. She has performed with the Mobile Symphony, Jackson, Tennessee Symphony, Memphis Symphony, to just name a few. She has performed in numerous recitals all over the country and recently recorded her own album of Romantic era cello sonatas, which is currently being edited. She is fabulous. If you have not heard her play, you need to do it as quickly as possible, but be prepared. You will cry because it is beautiful beyond comprehension. Help me welcome Christine Kralik. It's so fun getting to do this because, I mean, we see each other and we talk about nuts and bolts. We meet up for certain performances and things, but to get to do this is so special, so thank you for agreeing to do it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Willie said it's a trio, so as much as I'd love to just talk to Dr. Kralik, I need to invite the other people because I love them almost just as much. I don't know them as well yet. All right, we will by the end. Next up, we are going to meet Dr. Balija. She is Associate Professor of Viola at the University of Virginia, leads a musically rich life through performance and instruction. She serves as Principal Violist of the Charlottesville Symphony at the University of Virginia. As a professional violist, she performs solo, chamber, and orchestral works around the country, Charlottesville Symphony, Richmond Symphony, Williamsburg Symphony, again, just to name a few. She was invited to tour with the Pittsburgh Symphony on their East Coast tour, including a performance at Carnegie Hall. She has a member of Pro Musica Chamber Orchestra of Columbus. She performed classical and commissioned works, recording 2 CDs under the Summit label. She is a founding member of the Piedmont Duo. What does she not do? I don't know. She holds degrees from Oberlin Conservatory of Music, the Cleveland Institute of Music, and James Madison University. I'm going to be bold and say my new friend. Help me welcome Anne. Hello.
Good, my dear.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a seat.
Good.
It was so fun just watching you tag team and work in action today. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the week.
Wonderful, me too.
Last, but certainly not least, and this was intentional because usually, you know, the violinist gets introduced first. We decided to do it in reverse.
Perfect.
You know, changing it up, changing it up. All right. Violinist Andrea Dawson joined Middle Tennessee State University music faculty in 2007. There she teaches violin and viola, string chamber music, string pedagogy, and string literature, and conducts the chamber orchestra. Since 2008, she has been on the faculty at the Tennessee Governor's School for the Arts. She has performed throughout Tennessee, the United States, and internationally. As a member of the Stone River Chamber Players, she's performed at Steinway Hall in New York City and other locales. She has performed solos with orchestras, including the Valley Symphony Orchestra, Bucknell Orchestra, the MTSU Orchestra. Again, to name a few, I could talk for days about any of them, but we want to talk with, not just about. In 2021, she published 24 etudes for the Modern Violinist, Book 1, Early Intermediate. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, and I understand there are going to be some other books and works in the process. She received her Master of Music and DMA from the Eastman School of Music. Help me welcome Andrea. Yay! Hello! Welcome! And I love the blue. We've got the right color going on here. All right, first off, we're going to start. We've gotten a lot of questions from friends of LMR. The first question comes from a teenager. Aubrey would like to know if any of your instruments have names.
I'll start. So a good friend from high school named it Anthony, and she was like, well, you like boys, so obviously if you're touching it, you gotta name it that. That's why it's named that. Yeah.
Now, I would have never asked that question had Aubrey not asked for that, so I will never look at your instrument the same way.
Yeah.
All right, this is good to know. And?
Mine's called viola. It's very original.
Just like when a child has like baby,
Yeah.
or a cat, or a dog.
Exactly.
All right.
No, my current violin does not have a name, but when I was younger, my violin's name was Charlie.
Any reason as to why?
I liked the name Charlie. Sounded good.
Interesting. Well, I know a lot of people name their cars, right? Yeah. But I wouldn't have known to ask that question if it wouldn't have been for Aubrey. So thank you, Aubrey, for asking that question. I want to know, how did the three of you meet?
Governor's School, Tennessee Governor's School for the Arts. Andrea's been on.
I've been there since 2008, and then Anne joined us, and then Christine joined us, and we just have a lot of fun in the summer working on pieces with not nearly enough time, and then performing them with not nearly enough rehearsals. So, it's good times. Yeah.
Very neat. Well, people that might not know what the Governor's School is, will you explain a little bit just what that program is and what it means to you both as a performer and as a teacher?
So I didn't grow up with a governor's school idea either. A governor's school is run by the state, and during your sophomore and junior year, you can apply to come to one of many different focuses. And the goal is to help you introduce yourself to what would a career be like in said thing.
We're just doing it in college.
Yeah.
Like a college setting.
And so for 3 weeks, they are inundated by all things viola and things. And as we're all teachers, we enjoy getting to share our love of chamber music. For many of them, it's their first time, and performing and things like that. So
It's a very intensive program. It requires and demands a lot of them, and they have to practice a lot and perform in orchestra and chamber music, and we get to coach and work with them one-on-one, and sometimes we'll trade coaches, and that's really wonderful to hear these different student groups. And it's so amazing to see them grow in their day one to the end of the week 3, and just how much they've learned and how much more confidence they have and how, in a way, professional their group can sound by the end of that time.
That's fantastic. And how neat that you met there. So when did the idea come to form the string trio?
Well, Anne and I have performed duo recitals together because, you know, I knew her before I knew Christine. And then as we enjoyed working on it, we just got this idea of like, hey, we should do a trio together. So, yeah.
it's nice to do it with a little bit more time to practice.
Yes.
And since we're otherwise only seeing each other for 3 weeks this summer, it's nice to see each other in our natural habitats.
Yes. Well, I mean, actually, Holly had a question. How do you maintain your trio or chamber group when you live so far away? How do you make this work?
I like that we're all friends. That makes it like really easy to talk with you and learn and figure out our part together. But we make it work. I learn my part before really well, as best I can, before we come together and score study and listening, and then we put it together and
Hope for the best.
It's still a work in progress. We did do like a quick read through of the music last summer when we were finishing up with Governor's School. And then we're like, oh, it'll be fine. So here we are.
How far in advance do you typically pick the programs, and how often do you change them?
So in this case, since I was going through my university, I had to have an idea of the program last October. And then after that, once it got approved, then we could like finalize everything after that. So it was much further in advance than I think we usually give thought to our concert programs. So.
No, but that's good to note for the students to understand, because sometimes, I mean, there will be moments where you have to jump in and just do, but then there are other moments where you have to strategically plan so far in advance for funding, for, you know, various components. Yeah. So I'm just curious, what was your first musical experience? I mean, did you start on the instruments that you play now, or talk to us about baby Andrea and Christine?
Oh, no, he's so cute. I started in the Suzuki method at the age of 5, and there's a picture of me like looking pretty much like as serious as I do now, staring at my instrument intently, and
I've seen this photo too.
yeah,
It's so
it
cute.
looks.
I wish we had it. You'll have to share it after the fact. Here, we have a surprise! No, I'm kidding.
But anyway, yeah. So I loved it. You know, as a kid, it was like helped me. I was kind of shy, and so it really helped me like have something that I could feel confident about and like express myself and everything. And so I enjoyed it a lot. And the Suzuki method was a good fit for me at that time. And yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. How about you, Anne?
Well, my first musical experience was my mom singing to me. She was a kindergarten teacher, and she would practice the piano all the time, so I had a lot of that going on in life. But I actually started as a violinist. We moved to a new school, and I was 3rd grade, and I knew no one because it was the middle. So I joined orchestra to have kind of like a community to build off with. And then I realized that playing the violin was not nearly as cool as playing the viola, and so I switched.
I sense there might be a little, like, you know, challenge going on here. I don't know.
She can have the melodies, it's fine.
Oh, how about you, Christine?
I started off learning piano when I was 5, and I also grew up with parents that enjoyed music. They weren't professional, but I would hear violin playing or like just maybe a recording playing. And then by the time I got to about age 8, it was maybe time to pick a string instrument at school, and we went to a music shop, and the intent was to rent a violin for me, but I walked off by myself, and there was a cello in the back corner, and I didn't even know that's what it was, but I was like, that's it, that's what I'm supposed to play. And I ran back to Mom and Dad, and I said, I'm gonna play that. And they tried to convince me, well, it's so big, you're gonna have to carry that around, and the violin's gonna be easier, and I insisted. I was like, no, it's gotta be a cello. So then they rented me a cello, and that was that.
That is so neat. I will confess, when I have stress dreams, I'm playing the cello. I am in an orchestra, I'm in the middle of the section, and I'm playing, and I'm faking it. I wish I could play the cello, but I mean, that's like I adore the cello, but that's like my stress dream. Anyone else have stress dreams?
In my stress dreams, I'm playing the violin, so it's
Any stress dream identifying musical
eat.
things? What'd you say?
I just eat when I'm stressed.
You just eat when you're stressed. Well, I do that too, but I'm curious, you know, what is the significance of a string trio?
I can give you the historical context.
No, the reason I say that, I think that, I mean, some of this has to do with what I read, with what you shared, but also for our viewers, you know, we have people that are arts appreciators, and you know, what is the nuance? What is the draw? Whether you as the performer, what do you hope the audience takes away from that pairing of a string trio versus other combinations or chamber music?
I'll talk a little bit. So for me, you know, I grew up loving string quartets. There's such a rich repertoire for 2 violins, violoncello. And it's great. And there's a certain kind of intimacy, and we talk a lot about there being a conversation. Well, what's interesting about the string trio is that there's only 3 instruments, which, you know, if you play symphonic music, you know there's such a vast array of combinations of timbres and everything. But what's really neat about a string trio is that you've pared it down to these 3 instruments that differ mostly just in range, and yet there's such like a infinite number of colors and textures that you can make out of just those three instruments. So I think that makes it really fascinating. Like the music is very complex even with just those three elements. So I enjoy that.
That's a great explanation. Would you add anything?
For me personally, getting to play with these ladies means so much. And I'm so grateful that there is repertoire that fits our three instruments. And so for just me personally, I'm thrilled about that and being able to share my love of working with them to an audience. Yeah.
Fantastic. Curious, when you're playing, I mean, how would you describe the perfect sound on each of your instruments? I know that's the wrong way to put it. I mean, is there a color that you see? Is there any visualization that goes on? Does it change piece to piece? I mean, just talk about just the general quality, and this even ties to maybe why you picked your instrument in that way.
Well, I as a viola player, I like the middle sound of the voice, which to me, if I equate it to dark chocolate, because my viola is quite mellow, which usually works really well with the cello, but at the same point, I'm helping her. So I would say for me, it's the warmth, it's the one of my students used to call it suave sound that you can pull out of your instrument. And the viola really shines on long melodic lines and just soaring above it. So when we're all playing like a chorale type of sound, to me that's the top. Because oftentimes my role is to fill in pieces, not special.
Yeah, I always like to think like that our role, I mean, probably as musicians in general, but as a violinist, is to either sing, dance, or tell a story. And I think our program is a good combination of that. There's a lot of these like really beautiful melodies, like playful dance things, and then things that either kind of paint a picture or tell a story. And I just love the variety that we can make with these three instruments. I mean, you'll hear we're doing all these like kind of percussive effects and like eerie sounds, but then also these lush melodic passages as well. So.
Got it. How about you, Christine?
For me, there's moments of like really deep cello, low G and C string, and then there's moments of really high treble melody, and the cello is amazing in the sense that the range is about 4 octaves, sometimes 5, and it's incredible, and it sounds so good in all those areas. And like to add what we've been saying about the string trio, it adds this richness and depth, and the mix with the other 2 instrument voices is stunning. It's really gorgeous, and it is really cool, the unique techniques that you'll see, but it makes it so different and the variety amazing.
It's a lot more flexible sometimes than the string quartet. It's just the 3 of us, and because we know each other.
Got it. I mean, I guess as a singer coming to it, a singer doesn't get to choose what they sound like. I mean, yes, you can adjust it a bit, but it amazes me with an instrumentalist being drawn to a certain color or quality, whether it's, I want to play that brass instrument, or I'm drawn to the woodwind, or even within the string family, just to think how one is drawn to a certain color and timbre. Anyways, all right, I want to shift things. We're going to go to a new segment at LMR Live called Truth Be Told. Yes. So this is inspired by Marcel Proust. This was the French essayist, and sort of a parlor game of questions. He didn't create them, but made them famous. So we have 3 questions that we'd like each of you to answer, but I am going to push the button here, and we're going to see what question comes up. Here we go. All right. Which living person do you most admire? Don't overthink it.
I'm blanking on her name, but the Nobel Peace Laureate from 2017, she just came out with an Oscar-nominated movie.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember?
Anyone can help? Anyone have their Google out? No.
But the reason why I'm admiring her is, do I have to explain it or no?
No, you can if you want. It's interesting.
Here's a woman who lives in dire circumstances. She's actually a film artist now, creating films that are going to inspire women to be better than they are right now and breaking those barriers. So
very cool. Nice. Very cool. Andrea or Christine?
feel a little put on the spot, but
Sorry.
it's okay.
Not sorry.
But I really, in general though, admire any women that have made it successfully in music. And so they be it conductors or professional musicians. And I will often like look at their life and be like, how do they do it all? And I'm like, I can be like that. And I'm going to be like that. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm
Peace
blanking.
flies.
I love people. No, I don't know. This is so random, but I was going to say Dolly Parton.
I love it. See, but you can't overthink things. You just go with the gut.
Because here's the thing is, I don't even like country music, but there's something about her that's just so like generous and open, and she's like so unapologetically herself, and I really appreciate that. So there
Those
you go.
were great answers, yes? Yes? So in full confession, I recently, in a faculty development, had to do all of the questions related to these, and we got it the day before and we had to go back the next day. I almost didn't go. I was so scared to like share because it's very revealing, but we only picked 3, so we don't put too much on the spot. But it's you get to really know someone just how they answer these. All right, can we do 2 more? Sure. All right, we are going to push to start. Here we go! Has anyone ever given you a strange gift? I've received a strange gift once, and the person who gave it to me is here, but I won't go into that story.
Yes. Okay.
Yes?
So my brother and my father went on a vacation to Sweden. And my brother asked me, what would you like me to bring you from Sweden as a gift? And I was like, well, you know, just something small. And so when I came home to visit them, he said, I have your gift from Sweden. And it was made of felt, and it was a gnome, and it was this tall.
How did they ship it?
He brought it on the airplane.
That's love. That was a commitment.
Yes, I was like, well, way to like follow directions, Paul. Thanks.
Do you still have this felt? No.
I do. It's in my office at school.
I love it. I love it.
Is it really?
I love it. Any strange gifts?
Not particularly. I mean, I don't think so. Lame gifts.
Something that you can admit to on camera.
Yeah.
I like how you said that to me. And
Well, I mean, like if somebody's watching and you're like, oh, the ugly green sweater, and it's like, oops.
Sorry. Nothing comes to mind?
something that came to mind, and it's not that silly, but my sister and I were at like a novelty bookshop, and there were these cute little like alpaca looking things, but they were made of actual like, I guess, alpaca fur. Yeah. And it was like, it was cute and it was soft. And she bought it for me, and I didn't expect it, but it was,
All right.
I don't know if that's really that strange, but it was a cute little gift.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Anything? No. Totally fine. I don't know. Totally fine. All right, we will move on. All right. Push to start. Delayed. What is your motto?
Simplify.
Oh, I like how you say that too. Say it again.
Simplify.
Simplify. I like that.
It needs more crunch.
It needs more crunch.
I like the crunch.
Oh, is this a teaching model?
Oh, I did. I
All right, fill us in.
I needed Camden to bite the string more with his bow, and the front of the note needed more start to it and more emphasis.
So some crunch.
Yeah. And
I
he
like
plays
it.
double bass, and so that requires just a lot more effort.
I
Yeah.
like it. I like it.
Oh, it's not something like, now I'm like, okay, life motto or teaching motto?
Could be however you want to go with it.
Where's your frog? That's another thing I say a lot of.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say be kind, but that's not a teaching motto because we don't.
No,
want
but
to
that can be a life motto. I think
Yeah,
that's
okay,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, be kind.
closer to the bridge.
Bridge. All right. We'll take both of those mottos,
Okay,
so the
that's good.
non-string players can
Yeah.
be kind. Well, we all can be kind. But all right. So I'm really curious about something. I want to know. how you have to be positioned with all of the playing and all of the practicing you do. How do you, keep the alignment, deal with the alignment, deal with tension, anything you want to share? I'm curious as a non-string player, and there may be some pearls of wisdom you could share with string players.
Well, string players deal with a lot of tension because what we do, especially us, the upper strings, it's not very natural, right? I mean,
Totally normal.
it's asymmetric, which is a problem.
Right.
And so the balance is really important. And I play violin. I'm a violinist, but also play some viola. And, I really notice it when I play viola because it's so much heavier. But we really do have to be aware of our balance at all times because it affects the sound, which is
Right.
important. It also obviously affects our bodies if we don't do it. And so, in an orchestra, in a symphony orchestra, you'll notice, the violins and violas are like the ones that are out on disability the most often because they are hurting themselves playing so much. And so it's really important for us to really have a strategy for playing in a healthy way physically so that we don't hurt ourselves.
I was really shocked that I had to know a lot more about my skeletal structure in order to play my instrument. It was like, well, where does your ankle actually start? It's way farther back than I thought, and then stacking all it up, and then I've been having a lot of problems with tension right now, and so it's like oh, don't touch the mic. The sternum right here is where I actually feel when I stand up. It just aligns the whole picture, right? And so you just want to have this feeling like your arms are just floating and not having to work as hard, because the viola is 16 and a half inches to the left of your body. It's huge to maintain. And then breathing, all of my viola teachers were wannabe opera singers. So we sang a lot, but we also talked about how that breath supports the melody that you're doing and how it can relax your body. And
Well, that was one of the questions, how much are you thinking, I want to get to your alignment too, but how much are you thinking about breath in the playing and how much does that infiltrate into the body's well-being?
Yeah, every time I'm teaching, I have students come in as violinists and they're like, well, it's a violin, I don't need to breathe, and if you don't breathe before you start, it's really stagnant sounding. It has like a lack of support to it because that preparatory gesture is the breath that we take to begin. And so without it, it's like starting from nothing. I always say, like, we'll sing happy birthday without taking a breath, if you're like,
Right.
it's not going to work. So we all have to go, I'm not going to sing for you, sorry.
Darn.
That preparatory motion is really important for us to make a beautiful singing sound.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you, Christine?
As a cellist, I feel the most lucky out of these instruments that I think mine is the most natural in its position and the way that I sit with it. And sitting upright, you can get tired, but you're supposed to sit on the edge of the chair and hold the instrument, and your arms should be out. But doing that for too long can be tiring, but in general, our hand shape is very normal. Bow holds should be very relaxed. If I've been playing for a really long time, I feel the most tension maybe actually in the back of my neck, just because I feel like it's normal to look down at what you're doing all the time. And so I try to remind myself, and students I have, and I'm sure you do this too, but stretch and stop and take a break, and also just ponder how you're feeling too. Check in with yourself and be like, am I okay? And what's hurting and why is it hurting, and what do I need to do to fix it or to reverse it or rest or what, how to approach it.
So I'm just curious, well, actually, someone else is curious. The checking in that you do, are you then able to transfer that to everyday life? Because there's so many people, like some of our viewers, who don't play the instrument, but routine movements in positions with computers and other positions. Do you think about it doing other things, or does it just sort of stay isolated with the music making?
I've been thinking it a whole lot throughout my life. So your pec muscles, you're on a computer, you're on your phone. This is all the same stuff that I do when playing my instrument. And it feels like my shoulder blades are being pulled apart, and that's exactly what's happening because all of that is tight, right? So when I'm sitting in a chair or whatever, it's not like I'm sitting up really straight, but I'm just aware oh yeah, that doesn't feel great, or where is that? So yeah, I definitely think about it a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Now I have to drag a lot of stuff to school every day.
Where is your center, do you feel, in your body when you're playing? I mean, for you, I would think, well, I shouldn't presume that I think I know where it is, but I mean, seated, centered.
I feel like it's like all right here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Got it? How about for the viola?
It's definitely the same. The lower, the better.
The lower the better. Okay.
Yeah,
Andrea?
I've tried to feel like grounded through my feet into the, relaxing the hips down and allowing the energy to come up the front so that we're not pulled down by this thing in front of us, that you feel kind of that the instrument is balanced gently on your collarbone so that you're not fighting gravity all the time.
Yeah.
and we've moved so much as we play too.
Right.
We want that freedom.
Absolutely. No, this is interesting to me because today it just came to me like gangbusters when you were working, because I will admit, I mean, as a singer, we're thinking about that all the time, and the element, but I hadn't really been thinking it through the lens of the string player, and it was just interesting when you were working today. Yeah. All right, so to reference something from today again, you talked about pressure, placement, and rate. Do I have those right?
Speed, yeah. Speed.
Yes? So can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, so tone production on the string instrument, I'll say in general, has there's a little bit that we can do with the left hand, but we'll just talk about bow mostly because that's the tone producer, unless you're doing pizzicato. And so I always like to talk about vectors because I'm strange. But so we have the weight that's like the up and down vector. And then we have the bow speed, which is the sideways vector. And then we have placement. So we've got Y, X, and Z vectors.
It makes great sense.
And then we have rotation, so the amount of hair that we're using. And those four things, the way that we mix them, create all the colors that we can make on the instrument. And so string players that aren't thinking about those things don't have as much access to tone colors as they could. So that's my physics of violin playing. Anybody?
No, that's exactly
It's perfect. I would add that I try to get my students to think about these three elements because that's how you change the color and the tone and what you're saying and what you want it to sound like and how loud you want it to be or how soft you want it to be and how you express it. And your bow and the way you use it is everything in creating that.
I mean, it's so cool because it's really how we communicate just in everyday life too, right? If I'm talking really fast, it has sort of one energy, or if I'm, really pressing down on the sound, or if it's interesting. It's really cool, really cool. All right, question. I've got one coming in from Maya. I want to get to it. What is the hardest part of being in a chamber trio?
compromise.
Ooh!
Well, I'm not one that likes picking fights, but certainly, I might have an idea about an articulation or something, and she's got something, but she's like really strongly opinionated about it. And it's like, well, I could fight her for it, or I could just let it go. And sometimes I let her have her way.
I would say the hardest thing about it is like we practice our parts at home and we're like, I totally understand this. And then especially this music that we're playing, it makes perfect sense. I've done it with the metronome. I totally understand my rhythm. And then they're doing something so different that I just suddenly can't play my part. And then that's really difficult especially with the music that we're playing. It's not, when you get used to playing Mozart and Beethoven and you're used to the kind of textures that you generally play with rhythms that go together. And then this more modern music, the way that rhythms mix is a lot more complex. And so that kind of throws you off. You're like, I had this. I played it like 20,000 times, and now it's all of a sudden harder. So
I think everyone has faced that, students all the time, right? When it's one thing when you're by yourself, it's another thing then when you're suddenly with one collaborator. The more collaborators, the more complex it becomes. How do you hone your listening skills and or your vulnerability to be flexible? I mean, do you have any advice regarding that?
There were some moments today where Andrea had like the melody and like we felt like we were maybe covering it up. And so it's an opportunity to listen for what's the most important voice at this point, and then being flexible in the sense to adjust dynamic or the way that you're playing it with the bow. But then also knowing when you have the melody and when you need to come up. And anyways, it's like it's always changing. It's never going to be the same or constant, and that makes it so exciting. But also, you're constantly on your toes and listening for all those moments to
But
be
like I said,
supportive.
that's what's exciting.
It is
Because
exciting.
you have to really go into this mindset of it's ready for what's just going to happen within that moment, right?
It can get very personal. Like if Andrea makes a comment to me and I'm like, look, I'm trying my hardest here, and but she doesn't mean it in that way. I have to check my emotions sort of at the door that way. I want to be a better musician for the ensemble. I'm no longer just this individual. And it's, that's been a big, I can't always tell. Like across the way, we were rehearsing in here and Andrea looks at me and she's like, are you playing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing fortissimo. This is really loud. And she's like, you're muffled, you're so quiet. And it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, no, it's like, because it's a new hall.
It
so
is.
we weren't used to playing in here. And I was like, are you playing softly or is it just how we hear the hall?
Yeah.
From
No,
that
but these are
angle?
great points. I mean, I'm hoping this resonates with the students because I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm projecting myself for a second. When I was young, many eons ago, you think as you get older, it gets easier or you just sort of arrive and you never do. I mean, there's still going to be these moments where you're putting yourself out there. It's vulnerable. How do you put the emotions to the side? I think it's refreshing to hear them say that they're still having that approach. And that's also what's enticing and exciting about making the music, right? And then the other point of listening, right? It's listening to one another, but the acoustics change so much depending where you're playing.
We practice in her office and it sounds one way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we practice in here, it sounds another way.
How much do you trust the feel versus what you're hearing in your own playing? Because singers, we have to trust so much how it feels, right? Not necessarily what you're getting back, but how it feels within your instrument. I'm just curious.
Well, this is a new program for us, and so we're still kind of exploring what the requirements for these pieces are. But at a certain point, we do have to just trust it. Like, okay, we rehearsed it this way, and hopefully that sounds good. And then if we can get a recording later, the next time we play it, we'll have some more information to use.
I think it's definitely akin to like, I play Mozart one way, but I'm going to play Brahms another way. These are, for the most part, almost all living composers, and so, or lesser known works of those composers. And so I don't have the encyclopedia of knowledge of how that's going to feel, right? And then I know how a mezzo forte should feel on my instrument, and I start there, and then we have the discussion of where to go from there.
I personally will try to trust, like, this is how I did it in rehearsal and it was successful in, X amount of times in rehearsals, and so I'm going to do it this way in the concert. And then, like Andrea was saying, if you can hear, your concert or performance and then use that as feedback to enhance or inform how you play it the next time, or how you want to approach it maybe differently as a group, but it's all really helpful.
Everyone take note. They constantly keep saying about listening, adjusting, fine-tuning. I mean, what is the saying? If you feel like you've arrived, you're dead. Like, I just think it's so exciting to hear, that you're just always wanting to make it better, evolve, be in the moment. It's fantastic. Okay, random, just favorite piece. What is your go-to if you're going to listen? Or genre. What is your favorite piece to listen to, artist, whatever? What would it be?
I actually don't listen to much music outside of what I'm playing, but if I tune something on, it's going to be like Ella Fitzgerald and jazz and things like that.
Okay.
I always have the dorky answer. It's like whatever I'm working on, right? But I can never answer that question because I love so many different kinds of music. Well, mostly classical music in my case, but usually every time a student comes into me, I try to give them pieces I enjoy working on. And as soon as they leave, I'm like, can't stop humming that piece because it was so cool. But today, like which of you performed the Price?
Yeah.
I was like, I totally need to get that piece
Yeah.
because I had never played it before. It's quite lovely and fascinating. So I always.
So as long as it's good music, you're in.
Yeah.
Not
There's
country.
something. As I said, I like music that dances, sings, or tells a story, or some combination.
Very broad.
Yeah.
I like it. How about you, Christine?
For me, I also pretty much a purist in like classical music, and I listen to that a lot on my own. And I'll listen to whatever it is I'm having to work on in the moment. But honestly, like that brings so much, like, for me, just passion and like emotion in the moment of what I'm working on and what I want my performance of it to sound like and what I'm striving for, and hearing one person's artistic interpretation and what I'm going to do with it. And honestly, I feel like students need to listen to more music and need to listen to more performances on their instrument, and those things inspire you to actually play or try to imitate or emulate what you're hearing. And it teaches you so much.
Absolutely.
I really appreciated not having to perform for like 2 years because all of a sudden I was yearning to hear music and be inspired by new composers, and like I constantly had the Lincoln Center Chamber Music Society on, listening to them perform and learning about the pieces, and that was just inspiring. I wanted to play all those things. I wanted to be like Ava Kavafian.
No, I agree. I mean, well, listening is so key in adopting nuance and understanding what you're going to do. I think it's also important to know who you're listening to, because it is very easy to listen to things, but what are you actually, who's performing, what's the context of the performance, all that kind of stuff I think is important. So something that you do, I know Anne does, commissioning of works, yes?
Yeah.
Do the three of you do that, or is that really something in your wheelhouse?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Talk to us about your commissioning projects.
So my background really comes from the orchestral and chamber music side, but recently, and so that's major projects, but I have a marimba and viola duo. And so
That's so cool.
it's very awesome. Another reason I get to play with my best friend, But we've kind of, with her instrument, she's used to new music all the time, and so we're commissioning works that speak more to our personalities and different styles. And so this next year, we're having 3 works commissioned for us, all by women composers with electronics and et cetera, dealing with some of the hardships that have happened at UVA's grounds over this past year, and what they hope for in the future of women in music, et cetera. So
Very exciting.
it's really exciting because we get to be the workshopping. It's what I thoroughly enjoy. We're doing a piece for mixing bowls and viola. This is so weird. I have to tune my viola to the mixing bowl.
That sounds really difficult. I mean,
It's horribly out of tune.
is it hard to then stick with it in that manner?
Because my ears want to correct it, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so yes, it's hard.
I want to say that if you think the concept of marimba and viola sounds odd, they sound awesome together. Their group is like phenomenal. It's a perfect combination.
It really works.
Composers out there,
We're both mellow sounding. I think that's what really sells it.
That's really neat. So what led you to academia? Why university? Why academia?
well, I just talked about vectors and bow people. So I feel like that sort of explains
Your
it.
love language.
There you go.
I was not going for an academic career. I wanted to be an orchestral musician, and my teacher was like, just apply for every job that's out there, and so I did. And I remember coming out, I was in my master's, and I came out of my music theory class, and I got the job interview to go to UVA, and I was like, where am I going? Who is this? And then I fell into it. But I should have known, because everyone in my family is a teacher, but I didn't want to be one. I don't know. Obviously that worked out well.
Christine?
I feel like I didn't always have it on my radar until I was like in my doctorate, and my professor, who was much wiser than me, but also some similar advice, and was like, you need to do this, and you need to prepare and do this, and you need to make these recordings, and you need to put your resume together like this, and then also the same idea, you're going to apply to everything that comes up, but I love teaching too, and so it just happened kind of naturally, but it fell into place, honestly, for me, the way it was supposed to. And I get to work with you. I love it here. It's so great.
Aww.
Yeah, and the students are
I
wonderful.
paid her to say that. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate that, sincerely. I'm curious about, Andrea, the book, the Etudes, and you compose.
Well, as of that book, yes, I compose. No, I mean, I never did really compose before. So COVID, woo! Okay, 2 things happened. First of all, I had some students who were playing kind of not very modern, but like Barber violin concerto, and they were having trouble hearing the harmonies. And I was like, well, there's always an etude for that, right? So I went looking, and I was like, let's find some etudes that have some more extended tonality. And I couldn't find any that weren't like super impossible. And so I was like, well, surely. And then I was like, well, so maybe I should write some. And then COVID hit. And I was like, well, this is a good time. And
Dear
then,
Andrea,
yeah.
it's time. Time.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, COVID. And then, of course, I didn't know how to use Finale. So it was a really big learning curve. But now I know how to use Finale. And it was fun. So I wrote like a bunch of etudes. And I was like, these are so fun to play. And everybody I gave them to was like, Andrea, those are stupidly hard. Like, nobody's going to want to play them. So then I went back to the drawing board and wrote my book where they're all in first position. But they have like clever little challenges or puzzles. They're short, so it's like, it's organized by different kinds of scales. Like we've got a whole tone chapter and a octatonic chapter and a pentatonic. Thank you for reminding me. We did a presentation together on them. There's a viola version.
Yeah.
And so, and I tried to make them kind of fun. They have cutesy little titles like,
Pizzicato.
Thank you.
Bullfrog ballad or something.
Yeah.
Bullfrog ballad?
Ballet. Bullfrog ballet.
That darn
Ballet.
cat.
That's
That darn
a
cat.
strong visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's which one is that?
That darn cat?
Yeah.
It's the
12 tone. There's also
Yeah.
some. Oh, that one's in 12 tone.
Yeah.
Bullfrog ballet is 12 tone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are more coming?
If I ever get back to that, yes. So I'm also now opening a music school, a community music school in my town. So I've got sidetracked a little bit.
It's going to be amazing.
I'm just kidding, but I wouldn't say sidetracked, right? I hope you're taking things away from what they're saying. And there's a consistency that always happens with our guests. It's people who see an opportunity and go with it, people that are willing to adjust what they've put out there. Sometimes you get critiqued and it's like, well, but you're not saying that. You got the critiques, you made the adjustment, or something that you're really passionate about. So tell us about the music school.
I just think like that I want in my area for more people to have access to music lessons. Where I live, it's about an hour from Nashville, and there isn't something like that. And so the kids that can afford it drive to Nashville to get lessons. Well, some people can't do that, and we don't have anything like that in town. And so I just really wanted to have something. Our area is growing really quickly, and I just think it's time for that to happen where we are, and to have a center where music can grow. Kids can really thrive with the music instruction.
That's fantastic to hear, because that's something we really do have to think about in classical music. The fact that there are certain groups of people that have accessibility and options, and so many other people do not. So thank you for having that initiative and making that happen.
Well, it's just starting as of next week, so here I am.
We're sending you the vibes, and we will report back.
Yes.
All right, I think we need to change things up and play a game. This game is called Scope It Out. We're going to watch a little video about it, and then I will explain. Scope it out. All right, the game is inspired by the kaleidoscope. Thus, scope it out. We're going to all play with one slide first. Then I will ask audience to be quiet because I want to see these three dames go at it and see who wins. But we're going to get an image that's going to pop up. It's going to be a common image, and whoever can holler out first or state with enthusiasm what it is wins. All right, Mr. Benton. All right, who knows what it is? Anyone? This one's fair game for anybody in the room or at home. Bow tie. Who's it? Holly, fantastic. Bow tie. All right. right.
slowest at this game. Okay.
Very nice. You may play at home. You may be as loud as you want to be at home, or write it in the chat. But now, the trio is going head to head. You are not acting as a unit. You are your individuals. All right.
If you're
Solo
placing
time.
bets, I would place bets on Christine.
Oh, placing bets. All right. All right. So there are going to be 9 images. So the next one up.
Okay.
You can, of course, be screaming it in your head.
Or making visualizations so we know what it is.
Chocolate cookies, yeah.
Who said it first?
I think we said it unison.
Unison?
Yeah.
I was not specific. I said cookies, so I don't know if
I
I'm
said
valid.
chocolate chip, but they're M&M cookies.
I think, yeah, I guess
It was Andrea.
Yeah.
I think it was Andrea.
I think we said it at the same time. We're just kind of like,
All right, I don't know. I don't want to make any enemies, but I think I'm going to go with Andrea. Okay?
You're the rule maker, yeah.
All right. Next image.
A dollar bill. No.
Good guess. Keep going. Keep guessing.
Instruments.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
String family.
Thank you very much. We'll give that one to Christine. Christine gets that one.
Polka dots.
It's not a duplicate of.
Yarn.
Yes, very good. I thought it was donuts. I did it the first time, but it's not. It's yarn. Very nice. So far, Christine has 2. Andrea's 1.
0.
You're still in it. You are in it to win it. All right, next one up.
Almonds.
Bread?
Nuts.
Yes. Very good.
told ya.
Yeah.
Very good. Nuts for Christine.
My money is on her.
We're nuts for you, Christine. All right, next one.
San Francisco, great. Does Golden
Oh
Gate
my
Bourbon?
gosh!
Okay.
Yes! She was holding it in, but then unleashed it. All right.
I got one.
Excellent. Next one. My favorite, perhaps.
Shoes.
Yes. High heel shoes. All right, so what are we
I
at?
can't wear this.
3.
3 for
I'm at
Christine, 2 for Anne, and 1 for Andrea? All right.
You're going to get the
3, 2,
next
1.
one.
All right, next one up. It's cool how it changes.
Baseballs.
Yes. All right. Very nice. It's baseball season. All right.
Vegetables.
Carrots.
How does she know? She's right. Vegetables.
She eats a lot of them.
All right. Last but not least.
Person.
A conductor.
Cat? Oh, it's a conductor.
Wait, who said
Who is it?
No, it's not Joanne Paletta.
Hopefully we have the right person.
Alsop?
It's not Marin also.
It's a composer for your recital.
It's not Mason. It's Bond?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Victoria Bond. Fantastic. All right, Maya is our winner. Dr. Christine.
Oh, you get a
I'm
prize?
a little happy for you. You
Oh, look at that.
You're a little happy for you.
Thank
There you
you.
go. Did not mean to put you on the spot with that photo, but I'm just curious. Tell us, for folks who are in the vicinity who could come to the concert Wednesday night, just give us a gist of what to expect.
All the composers share the ideas of understanding death through various ways, either the person who's mourning the death, someone who died in a concentration camp, someone who is on their deathbed, right? And so we all share that, right? Death in Texas, those are the commonalities for it. And so how they interpret and how they see those textures comes out in their music. I think that's it. Anybody else?
Nope.
No, that's good, and I'm going to share what's in that you put in the program.
Sure.
Themes emerged connecting the voices of struggle, memorial and hope to death, and extreme hardship. The reasons composers create are diverse and often personal. These 5 composers, seemingly disparate in both race, ethnicity, religion, and age, take on these themes, expressing their internal thoughts and experiences through the lens of the string trio. Those are Anne's words. But they really, when I read them, it just gives a glimpse of, I think, what to expect. I'm looking forward to, because this is new music to me, I look forward to experiencing it with you. Thank you for putting the program together, and I want to again invite people to join. I have a lot of people to thank for our show. I want to thank all of our LMR supporters and partners, our loyal viewers via the web, College of Liberal Arts, Department of Music, and our giving group, the Secret Salon Society. If you would like to join the Entertainment Outreach Education Initiative of LMR, just reach out. I want to thank the people who make up LMR, our Executive Managing Director, Brady Bramlett, our graduate assistant, Jovania Correa-Coleman, our undergraduate assistants, Benton, Donohue, Maya Taylor, and Ben Curry, and also a special thank you to music's multimedia specialist, Jordan Presley. I mentioned at the start of the show, we have one more residency coming up with Glenn Ballard. If you don't know that name, I just want to share a little bit about his work. He has written the song Believe to Polar Express, the musical Back to the Future that's going to be opening on Broadway is his music, Jagged Little Pill that's touring nationally, Alanis Morissette, Aerosmith, Katy Perry, Michael Jackson, but he's going to be here, and we're going to do an LMR Live with Glenn on April 19th at 6 p.m. Central Time. If you happen to be in the vicinity, join us for a concert event where he will be bestowed the Medal for the Arts on April 20th in the Ford Center. That will be our big bang end to year 10. But I want to, in this moment, one more time say thank you to these amazing women sitting here with me. I like what you shared about women, and it can be a tough game in the music business, and it's really inspiring to see folks like yourselves really doing great things and pushing the needle, so thank you. So let's give a thank you to our three guests. And let's remember that the music research revolution continues. Until next time.